America, we got to get back to doing what's expected of us as free citizens in this democracy. That means being tolerant, being respectful, staying informed, and being engaged. I'm former Congressman Joe Walsh. Follow me here and join the millions of Americans who are renewing their social contract with each other. The social contract, it's on us. Hey, everybody, come on in. Tracy, come on in. I will. Thank you, Melissa. I will. Cassie, Annette, Brenda, Alexandria, Carla, Kim. I've got a great guest coming up. Mike Madrid here momentarily. Mike Madrid is running a couple minutes late. Punch those hearts, Boston. Dave, Cassie, everybody. Lynette, come on in. I'm going to ring my guest, Mike Madrid, here in a moment. I'll grab him, but come on in, everybody. Thursday night, everybody. Glad that you're with me. Hope you're having a good week. Look, I've got in a moment here, I'm going to grab, hi, Boston Dave. I'm going to grab the smartest political mind I know, Mike Madrid, to get his take on where things are these days. Hi, Robin. Hi, Kimmy Wynn. And we'll get to, I'm going to pull Mike Madrid in here in a minute. I'll try him. Hey, Bobby B, Cassie, hi. No Kings t-shirt. Couple things I want to say before I grab Mike Madrid is I hope and assume everybody, man, you've got your plan for No Kings Day. 2 days from now, a day and a half from now, Saturday, October 18th. Attend a No Kings rally near you. Hi, Mary. Hi, Lynette. Punch those red hearts. Hey, Dimitri. Find a No Kings rally near you. Get with community. Stand with your fellow Americans. Stand to reaffirm this Saturday that basic American principle that we are not ruled by kings in this country. I'm going to put out a Substack piece later tonight with my one plea to everybody for No Kings. And focus on No Kings. Saturday, when you're marching and dancing and singing and protesting, just talk about defeating fascism, defending democracy, and defending the rule of law. Just do that. I know, Melissa, we've got Mike Madrid's running a few minutes late. Thank you, Melissa. That's my ask. I'll grab Mike Madrid here in a second. This Saturday, when you go out on No Kings Day, it's all about no kings. It's all about defeating fascism. It's all about defending democracy and defending the rule of law. Leave everything else at home this Saturday. I don't care what your personal policy agendas are. I don't care what, it's not about any other policy. Leave all of that at home. Don't go out there and start waving the Palestinian flag or the Israeli flag. Saturday is not about any of that. It's about America defeating fascism in America. It's about that thing that unites us. We disagree on so many policy issues. Doesn't matter. That's not what Saturday is about. Saturday is about defending democracy. So all the other stuff you're worked up about, all the other issues, what's going on in Gaza, what's going on in Ukraine, teacher pay, anything else, man, leave all of that stuff at home. Leave it all at home on Saturday. Saturday, we're all Americans defending democracy. Doesn't matter where we stand on any other issue. Let me now reach into my grab bag and pull in that guy who I think is the smartest political brain I know. I think he's coming in here in a minute. Mike Madrid, everybody. Absolutely, Anthony. Policies mean jack shit right now. I don't give a damn where you are on policies. There he is.
Oh boy, I joined at the right time.
Mike Madrid. I always love giving my intro to Mike Madrid. He's the smartest fucking political brain I know. End of story. He's the smartest fucking political mind I know. Everybody, as you punch those hearts, everybody make sure you're following and subscribing to Mike Madrid here on Substack. Mike, it's so good to see you, brother.
Brother, it's always good to see you, man. I love your passion. I love your fight. It always makes me realize we're going to win this thing when I get a chance to talk with you and share some of that energy and feed off of you. So thanks for everything you're doing out there.
Well, Madrid, you know what's so funny about that, Michael?
Yeah.
You do that to me. Like you actually give me fucking hope when I listen to you and talk to you. So,
yeah.
But and I know you won't blow smoke up my ass or smoke up anybody's ass listening to us right now.
Yeah.
Big question start 9+ months into this regime. Where are we at? What's giving you hope? What's giving you concern? Where are we at right now, Michael?
Well, I mean, look, what we're witnessing every day is not good. But what I am going to say is this, and I've always shared this with you, Joe, and I know it's not the easiest or best medicine to take, but we are becoming a stronger people for this. We are becoming a stronger people for the fight. We are going to emerge from this, and we will emerge from this a better people, a stronger people, a people more committed to freedom and committed to our ideals. That is going to happen. Getting there is going to be tough. And the tough part is what builds character. It what builds not only an individual's character, it's what builds a nation's character. And I'm more and more convinced of that every day. And like I said, the more we join each other, you feed off of me, I feed off of you, we feed off of each other, the community that we have building out there builds an energy and a momentum for things like this Saturday, right? The event, the protest where people are going to show up. From a data perspective, and you know I'm a nerd about data.
Yeah.
There's one critical factor that people aren't looking at as a social dynamic. Authoritarian efforts, over 90% of them that are successful are usually enjoying 75, 77% support from their citizenry.
Oh, wow.
This guy's low 40s at best, really more mid high 30s. People are not happy with this. And I hate giving this the credibility of saying, how do you occupy an entire continent the size of the United States? I mean, logistically, it's sort of a nightmare, but you're not seeing popular support for what he's doing. That's the one critical difference of this getting as far down the road that we are. Now, look, it's a sin. It's horrible where we're at. I'm not going to, put lipstick on a pig here. This is not good. But it is also in many ways sort of a required part of us as an American generation. This is our obligation to fight for these values and this freedom, the way that so many generations of Americans have fought for us before, so that we can hand this to the next generation.
Hey, Mike Madrid, explain that to me, because I think we saw this in Trump first term. He got elected, and then as he served 4 years, Americans didn't support what he was doing. Oh my God, he got elected by a bigger margin this time. Yeah. And yet here we are now, Americans aren't supporting what he's doing. So then how do you explain that difference? Like the country votes for him, but then they don't like what he's doing.
Well, this might set some people a little bit sideways, but I don't believe a whole lot of folks vote for candidates anymore. I think they vote against candidates. And that's part of this broader decline in institutional confidence that you and I have talked about before too. Yeah. Is it's better to look at who is voting against who's in power, regardless of who it is, than it is to say it's a vote for something. Clearly, there's a wide swath of the MAGA world and sort of the right-wing fringe fanatic that's supportive of it. But there's a bigger group of people that are just like, I don't trust and believe in any of these folks. All of these guys are calling each other's names. They're both saying there are threats to democracy. Yeah. Those of us that follow this closely and know our history and know politics and know the system and can see it, it's as clear as day to us. But for lower information voters who are just struggling to get by, they're kind of like, they're both bad. I'm just going to vote against who's ever in power because the next guys will take over and they'll do the same sort of thing. And while I don't agree with that, I understand it.
So, Mike, that's interesting. uh, people, a percentage of people don't like either one, so they vote against the party in power. And as I campaigned for her last year, I heard a lot from the lower information voters, Joe, I know Trump's an asshole, but the Democrats are snobs who look down on me. So
Yeah.
were there more people that voted against Kamala because they were the party in power, or more people that said, I got two bad choices, but I'd rather vote for the asshole than the party that is elitist, or whatever they would say?
That's a great question. And the way to look at this, the way to look at most elections, incidentally, is as President Joe Biden said, you don't need everyone, you just need
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah.
And the enough are the movable voters that increasingly are low information, working class, more often than not Latino voters who are not engaged, who don't see themselves in the parties, who don't believe that either party is going to find a solution for them. There's some pretty good evidence over the last 12 years that both parties have kind of failed them. And so they're
Yeah.
just kind of like, look, yeah, I guess I'll show up and vote against the party in power again because I'm not inspired to vote for anything. Nobody's solving anything. It's rare that anybody even talks about the economy anymore in
Yeah.
a meaningful way or relatable way. So, without giving you a terribly direct answer, what I will say is there's enough voters that are moving away from parties. We call it negative partisanship, but it is a sizable segment. It's not at least in campaign parlance. It's not 35-40%. The days of
Okay.
30% swing voters are gone. But if it's 5%, that's pretty massive in today's parlance. And that's certainly the level that we're at. There's that absolutely 5 to 7% of swing voters that will change their mind on any given Tuesday.
So am I stupidly generalizing what you're saying when I say Mike Madrid would say the Democrats lost in 2024 more than Trump won?
100%. That's what I would say. Yes. Yeah. And I would say Donald Trump lost in 2020 more than Joe Biden and Kamala Harris won. And I would say Hillary Clinton lost in 2016 more than Donald Trump won because they were the party in power. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, okay,
there's a
okay.
rhyme and reason to it all.
So, my historian brother, has it always been this way in America,
No,
or has it gotten worse?
no, but
Okay.
no, it's a great question. The answer is no, it has not always been this way, but there have been periods that have been as bad as this. If you look in the
Mhm.
post-Civil War era, it was actually worse than this. So no, it has not always been this way, but there are some very significant and consistent historical trends. For example, when a party has the executive office, the presidency, and both houses of the Congress, in the midterms, they usually suffer pretty significantly,
Right.
as did Donald Trump in 2018. Joe Biden suffered not terribly significantly in 2022, not what everybody was expecting. That goes on and on. That's been going on since the 50s. So the likelihood of that trend line continuing, I think, is very considerable. There have been some aberrations. You have seen some third consecutive terms for a party.
Yeah.
But by and large, since about the 70s, we have seen the parties in power not last terribly long. We went through a very long stretch of presidents going 2 terms, with Carter and George Herbert Walker Bush being kind of the exceptions in a 40-year
Yeah.
trend. But other than that, it's pretty consistent, Joe.
So then, Mike Madrid, all things being equal, history would say the Democrats should have a good year in 26. But
Yeah.
there's this fear that all bets are off with Trump, and these are crazy times, and they are cheating, and he's going to mess with the elections. And Democrats have all these fears. We know historically we should do well, but Democrats got to get their act together. There are these Trump factors that maybe will defy that history. What say you?
Yeah, well, that's why they're cheating, right? They're worried. They know
Yeah,
their history too. I'm not saying anything that a lot of people don't know in the business. This
yeah,
isn't novel Mike Madrid thinking. This is just kind of a chart line. So yeah, they faced. Here's the thing: 2018, Trump's first midterms. Let's start there.
yeah.
Three things were defining that election. First is there were ICE raids and crackdowns. People don't remember this because our
Right.
attention span is so short. They were not the same. He was not militarizing. But LA, there were people going into workplaces. They were going into schools. They were going
Yeah.
into houses, neighborhoods, dragging people out. That was happening. The second was Fox News was running 24/7 news shows on caravans coming
Yeah.
from Latin
Yeah.
America through the Darien Gap, and they were going to invade the country and take over. And the third thing is Donald Trump was doing rallies saying build the wall still.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
will he do that in a build up to the midterms? Yeah, he probably will. They're banking everything on the immigration issue. There's two problems that he's facing with that. The first problem is Americans don't see immigration as a problem anymore because it's not a problem anymore. There's no undocumented coming through the borders anymore. It's zero. In most cases, it's reversed. One, because of these draconian measures, and two, because of
Yeah.
self-deportation. So Americans don't view this, they don't view it as a problem because it's not. It's certainly dropped as a priority issue. But
Right.
the more important issue, and where I will implore Democrats day in and day out to start focusing on, is Donald Trump is losing on the economy.
Yeah.
So his two strongest issues are now net negatives for him. If Democrats engage and continue to take the bait on immigration exclusively, I'm not saying ignore it, they're going to limit their upside because Trump is still viewed stronger on immigration for good reason than the Democrats. But the economy is different. Democrats are now viewed positively on the economy. And unlike 2018, which was a good economy, by the way, the economy is getting worse. It's
Yeah.
bad and getting worse. And that's going to be real trouble for the Republicans heading into 2026.
By the way, everybody, keep punching those hearts. This is why I love to talk to Mike Madrid. This is why you all need to follow and subscribe to Mike Madrid on Substack, because you always teach me. You always teach me shit.
Well,
So
likewise. Yeah.
no, I have a big mouth. You're brilliant. What, Mike? What? Because to me, the cruelty of what ICE is doing, my gut tells me, oh, Dems, that's the issue. Jump all over it. Is part of what you're saying, though, that that's not necessarily the biggest issue. And in fact, maybe Trump and Republicans are trying to distract with that issue from the economy.
Well, don't give them that much credit. I think they're just haters.
Okay.
They can't help themselves. They're going to do that anyway. So that's first. But what I will say is this, and this is important. You know, I read polling data constantly. Yeah. I look especially for Latino data in key places. There was a poll that came out from the Latino Community Foundation, who's run by Julian Castro, who's a good friend of mine. I think you served with him. Served with his brother in Congress.
Yep.
You know, this is not. He's a very progressive Democrat. He hired Kamala's Latino pollsters. These are very progressive pollsters. And their data came out, this is just 2 weeks ago, in California Latinos showing that immigration was essentially the sixth most important issue.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm not going to say it's not an important issue. It is an important issue. And it is cementing people's preconceived notions of who this guy is. But what I am going to tell you is there's 5 issues related to the economy, whether it's jobs, whether it's affordability, whether it's healthcare costs, that the Democrats are not fighting enough on and focusing enough on to get the needle to where they need it to get. That's my frustration. We are all seeing this, including a lot of Latinos who are saying, yeah, this is really bad. Yes, this is an overreach. Still haven't seen price of groceries come down. Gas still more expensive. Housing still very much out of control. Interest rates aren't moving anywhere near to make a difference. Tariffs are killing border communities. All of these border communities that were suffering from unfettered immigration, and that's the right word, and from cost, got a double whammy because even though the border's under control, those are the communities that hurt the most by a reduction in import and export business.
Yeah.
So a lot of these Latinos, and again, a lot of this, and I want to be real careful with I say this because this is where I'll get cooked online. I'm not saying it's not important. It is important, but it is not the top issue. And in fact, a lot of polling is showing it as a more important issue for white progressives than it is for working class Latinos. And that's the danger.
That's the danger right there. You said it. Am I right, though, that Trump's numbers on immigration are not doing well? Most Americans don't like what they're seeing on this issue.
No, they don't. But here's the thing, and this is important too. It's because mainly they don't view it as an immigration issue anymore. They view it as a
Ah,
government overreach issue, which it is. Like it's
yeah,
not about immigration. He's not going into Portland to deport people. He's going into
no,
Portland to crack skulls and be what he is. Like that, and everybody knows it. Everybody is seeing it. They may go under the rubric of, oh yeah, we're going after the worst criminals and blah blah blah. That's not why you go into Portland. That's not why you go into DC. That's not why you go into these communities. You're going in to cause trouble. They lie about it
yeah,
and put a false narrative, but that's what
yeah,
they're doing. So the public doesn't even view this as an immigration issue anymore. They view it as a militarization of the country, which is right, and they view it as an overreach of governmental power, and that's why his numbers are much lower. In fact, if you ask the question, and people have, has the government overreached by wide margins, like 15 to 20 points, depending on the poll, are saying yes, he's overreached. They still view him as strong on the immigration issue, not as good as he was, and stronger than the Democrats, by the way. And look,
yeah, yeah,
I'm not going to say that's odd or that's weird or that's wrong. I think that's right. He did get the border more under control. Biden began fixing it in the last year
yeah.
of his term. That's true. But it's under control now. I mean, I'm not liking the
Is
way he
he
did it at
getting?
all.
Is he getting, Mike? Is he in the data? Is Trump getting credit among voters for the border being under control, or
Yeah,
has
but
what he's doing on the streets overtaken that?
it's the overreach is bigger. And
Okay,
it's also because it's coupled with he's not positive on anything anymore.
right.
Nothing. His
Wow.
numbers are really bad. And it's the economy that's driving numbers lower. And for the life of me, I can't, and maybe you'll understand this too, with the frustration. It's like, call the tariffs tax increases. Call it a
Yes.
Republican tax increase. It's like the Democrats can't, out of their DNA, be opposed to a tax increase. But
Yeah.
that would be devastating. It would be a devastating hit that you will never see the DCCC or the
No.
DNC take that hit, but they need to. Like, that's what's going to hurt them because the tariffs are incredibly unpopular.
Criticize the Democratic Party for me. I've been a
Uh,
Democrat now for 4 months, Michael. I could go on and on. I'm starting to drink a lot more tequila because of it. But like
yeah.
you, from your perspective, the good, the bad, the ugly about how the Democratic Party is getting their act together or not.
Well, my fear is, and I think I've shared this before, is that the Democrats will win in the midterms. I hope they do. I'll be right there fighting along with everybody and supporting people that I can to make sure that the Democrats regain control of at least the House. But
Yeah.
my fear is it will be like 2018, where they start to say, "See, it was about immigration again."
Uh,
When it wasn't. It wasn't in 2018. Although it was more so in 2018, I should clarify that. It was a lot more about that in 2018 than it was in 2020,
yeah.
2022, and what it's looking like in 2026, which is clearly about the economy. If the Democrats can't become the party of the working class again
Yeah.
and attack the failures of a lot of our institutions for failing working class people, we're in for a longer run of this than we need to go through. If look, we're talking about all these mid-decade redistricting fights
Yeah.
and all of the stuff coming up with the Voting Rights Act. None of this would be happening. Not one of these things would be happening if the Democrats just held Latinos to their 2020 numbers. Just
So
2020. Like, if you quit losing people of color and quit losing working class voters, none of this would be happening. 2016 never would have happened.
God, I wish every Democrat, Mike Madrid, just heard what you said. Trump did better, obviously, among the Latino vote, Latino men especially, but are his numbers with that cohort going down since he's been president?
Yes, yes, but they're not going down to 2018 levels. And I
Okay.
think that will be one of the story coming out. Now, look, it's a long way. A lot of things are going to happen. There's a lot going on the foreign policy front. The economy is getting worse. But as it sits today, if the election were November 2nd, 2025, you would see Latino numbers drop back into a low 30s range. He would lose 15, 16 points. Massive
Okay.
swing.
Okay.
Okay. But that 33% is not
Yeah.
the mid 20s levels where it's historically been. Those days are gone forever. So it's kind of like your mutual
Uh,
fund portfolio. It goes up and down and up and down, and over time it's moving. That's what's happening. There will be a retrenchment of Latinos back to the Democrats in 2026. That will happen, but it will not be by the size that people expect or think it will be.
you just said, Mike Madrid, you just said those days are over. Democrats will never get back to the mid 20s where Republicans are at that level with the Latino vote.
I mean, if the economy crashes in the next year, yes, but it's going to take something exceptional now. You're seeing even now with everything that's going on, the economy is bad, ICE raids, government overreach. He's still sitting at a 33% support range. This is from Democratic pollsters.
Why is that, Mike? Why is that? The Democrats who are listening to us right now, like I know they're thinking, my God, Mike Madrid Walsh, how is he still retaining any Latino support? Why
Right.
is that?
Well, I appreciate you asking because I wrote a book on this, right? And
I
explained why
know
it was
you
going to
did.
happen, and it
I
did.
love teeing you up. I
Thanks for
love teeing
thanks
you
for
up.
the softball. Thanks for the softball, Joe. The answer is very simple. Is Latinos Democrats view Latinos as a racial and ethnic voter
Mhm.
when they are overwhelmingly an economic pocketbook voter. And
Amen.
so they talk to Latinos as though immigration is their main issue or only issue, and it is an issue, but it is not nearly as important as the main economic pressures facing them as a citizen, as a voter. And until they reconfigure that prioritization of issues, they're going to continue to either lose them to the Republicans or, and I would argue just as importantly, see more disaffiliation of both parties and lower turnout, where the Latinos,
Yeah.
especially men, are just saying, I'm not going to vote for the Republican either because this Trump guy is a dick, but I'm not going to vote for the Democrats because I know what I'm going to get for them, which is nothing. So I'm just not going to vote.
Kind of related, just one quickie, isolated question. When I was out there campaigning for her every day last year, for 3 months, I would hear from Latino men and Black men that they were not going to vote for a woman for president. Mike, is there anything to that among Latino men and Black men that's reflected at all in any data?
Well, let me talk about the data, and I will say this. Um, that exists everywhere with all men, right? In all
Yeah.
races. Like
Yeah.
that is a part of
Yeah.
it. The
Yeah.
question really is it particular to Latino culture or Black culture? I can't speak for Black
Boom.
culture. I've never studied it. I don't know it. But what I will say is this. As it relates to machismo and men and kind of these lazy ethnic stereotypes,
Yeah.
there is no ethnic group that elects women at higher rates than Latino voters. None.
Wow.
If you look at like
Cool.
the composition of the legislature in California, it's more Hispanic women than Hispanic men. More. There are more Hispanic women than men. And that's pretty consistent even in red states. Texas is near parity. Florida is near parity. New Jersey, a blue state, bluish, purplish state now, is overwhelmingly Hispanic women, which are more Puerto Rican and Dominican than Mexican American. So it's not even a cultural thing across these diverse cultures. So the other statistic I like to point out is it was Kamala Harris herself whose whole trajectory, political trajectory in California
Yeah. Yeah.
was buttressed by Latinos, dramatic overperformances with Latinos. They voted for her and built her career for 25, 30 years. So to me, it's a little bit disingenuous to say, well, it's a
Yeah.
Latino thing when they were supporting her for 30 years, when they support women over men. Mexico just elected their first female president.
Yes.
And
Yes.
after a bad administration where the border was out of control, inflation and cost of living was skyrocketing out of control, they reject it, and then suddenly they find out that Mexicans are misogynist or machismo and don't like women. It's like, that's kind of bullshit.
So, Madrid, Democrats then, it's the fucking economy
Yep.
and focus on working class voters. It's the economy. It's the economy. It's the economy.
It's got to be. And I mean, like, look, I know there's a million things to be concerned about for all good reasons. Abandoning Russia until he doesn't. These stupid fights over the Nobel Peace Prize, shooting rockets over the I-5 in San Diego,
Yeah.
attacking, our cities and blue cities, getting rid of healthcare. With this, the big beautiful bill, or big ugly bill, whatever it's called, and now he shut down the damn government. Government shut down. Like, there's plenty to be pissed off and irate about. and I'm not going to say that they're doing this consciously. Don't give these guys this much credit. These guys are
True,
just not
true.
that competent. But it will ultimately be whether or not the economy is doing well. What we know from history is
Yeah,
people will put up with a lot of bullshit from leftist governments or right-wing governments if they feel prosperous. If they're
yeah.
doing well, they will put up with a lot of crap. And I don't just mean Americans, I mean all human beings. So until there's enough financial pressure and pain, they're not going to pay attention, but they're starting to feel the pain, and that's where I think we need to focus.
Mike, no King's Day this Saturday. This whole thing against Trump's a fascist. I say it. He's an authoritarian. The threat to democracy, all of this stuff. You and I have talked about it before. That's always there. You would, though, advise candidates don't fucking lead with that stuff. Economy.
Well, I mean, look, let me say, I'm not going to tell people the No Kings rally is great because it's a coalition of people who are pissed off about their own different reasons and issues, and there's a reason for
Yeah,
everybody to go. So I'm not going to say
yeah.
this isn't a good idea. Brother, I'm in Mexico studying on some great tequila stories that I'm going to be telling.
Ah,
I want to talk to you about that, bring you a
yeah,
couple good bottles, but I'm leaving back early so that I can be there for Saturday because it's that important, right? So I may have my reasons why I don't like the guy. I don't care what the people marching next to me drives them more or less. I just care that people are showing up. Because this is the moment, guys. This is the moment where you need to stand and be counted. This is where your grandchildren will say, "Where were you when history mattered?" You need to have them tell the story to their grandchildren that their
yeah,
grandparents marched against this. You want the pictures of you on the right side of history. You don't want to be, I was watching the Dodger game and I'm loving my Dodgers right now. It's amazing. But is
yeah,
it as
yeah.
important as the future of the country? No, it's not even close. Like, we've got to be out there. This is important. This is that moment. You want this reflected. You need to post it. You need to share it. You need to show courage right now because every day you do not show courage, it gets harder the next day to stand up.
What, Mike? Based on everything you're saying about these midterms that are so fucking crucial,
Yeah.
the Democrats got to take back the House. Paint a scenario where Republicans hang on and defy history. Like, why would that be? Would that be because the Democrats just didn't make the case, talk about what they needed to do? I mean, how could that be?
Let me tell you what keeps me up at night the most.
Thank you.
Yeah. What keeps me up the night the most is realizing that as we have lost the town square, as we have
Yeah.
lost the commonality of understanding what facts and science and news are,
Yeah.
all of our main communications platforms, once Larry Ellison, who
Yeah.
was basically given TikTok, and they're going to put Barron Trump on the board of TikTok. Let me
Yeah.
just draw this picture. The right wing Trump allies will own TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Fox News, the largest cable program by far,
Yeah.
the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times. That's without the ecosystem of the podcasters and the podcast
Yeah.
bros.
Yeah.
So we used to call it the mainstream media, the legacy media.
Yeah.
The counterculture media is now left wing media. There is the
Wow.
mainstream media is now a right wing propaganda machine. So think about that. That is fascinating and it's
Wow.
horrifying all at the same time. There are not nearly as many New York Times readers as there are people who are watching Fox News every day.
Yeah.
Okay, and you add on TikTok, you add on Twitter, you add on Facebook. Like, how are Democrats even competing? And the only audiences that they're speaking to are highly engaged, white, wealthier, college-educated homeowners who already know what they believe. They're getting more wound up and more intense, but they're not persuaded by any of these issues that anybody's talking about. They're watching MSNBC, they're reading the New York
Yeah.
Times, and maybe a little bit of CNN, but that's it. That's it, brother. It's a sliver. It's not even close. So
So
we have
how,
to remember.
Mike, how do
Yeah.
they compete? How do Democrats compete with that now?
Well, what's happening is, again, it's economic problems is what's going to burst the bubble. All of
Yeah.
this other
Okay.
stuff you're hearing. Look, you hear Mike Johnson saying that the No Kings rally is
Yeah.
anti-American rallies. Like, these
Yeah.
are all
Yeah.
people paid by George Soros. That's the messaging you're going to hear. Is every one of these millions of people are all paid operative,
Right.
and this isn't organic. It's a propaganda machine by foreign interests that hate America. That's what they're going to say, right?
Yeah.
And the Democrats will respond in kind. And one of the tactics that they use is this projection, which is if we say the same thing they're going to attack us with, the average person who's cynical anyway isn't going to believe either of us. And we have the capacity and the infrastructure to say it more and more
Right.
often with more vitriol. That's how we win. And it has worked. It's a strategy that has worked for them.
Um, I think you and I talked about this. I thought last November, once and for all, eliminated the Democrats ever being able to win again by just saying Trump is bad. They had to do more than that. But I wonder, Mike, if the economy is really, really bad, then maybe all Democrats have to do in 26 is to say Trump is bad. He fucked up the economy.
Yeah, yes. No,
Okay.
that's my fear. That's not only a possibility, that's a
Yeah.
probability. That
Okay.
is the most likely scenario, and that's what my fear is look, the Republican Party is no longer a party. You and I both
No.
know that.
Right.
But I want people to understand something. In a two-party system, when one party fails and becomes countercultural and anti-establishment, the other party fails also. And let me explain what I mean by that.
Yeah.
You can't have one healthy political party articulating a philosophy of government while it's actually just trying to do triage and preventing the takeover and the hijacking by an authoritarian movement.
Yeah.
So the coalition of the Democratic Party is essentially an anti-Trump, anti-authoritarian coalition. I mean, that's kind of who Joe
Yeah.
Walsh and Liz
Yeah.
Cheney and Mitt Romney and Mike Madrid are, right? That's why
Yeah.
we're here in this party, is because we understand the gravity of the moment. But that's not a healthy political party. That's a bulwark against a social
Right.
cancer. And so at a certain point, the Democrats do have to articulate a positive agenda in order to build a party and build a base and have some supporters that are saying, yes, I'm a Democrat because, not I'm anti Trump. And so I guess I'll default vote for the Democrats. And until that happens, it's going to be very difficult to win a national, build a national coalition that is sustainable. It may happen in 2026, God willing, but does that hold into 2028? I really don't think that it does, because all you're doing is fighting against Donald Trump, and who the hell knows what 2028 is going to look like.
Mike, that sounds like an almost impossible task for Democrats.
Well, that's why they've been losing and sliding. And that's why, look,
Yeah.
that's why this hand wringing about, Andrew Cuomo not endorsing
Yeah.
Mamdani and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that is so off topic. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think you're gonna win enough Republican voters by denouncing Mamdani as mayor of New York? Like, what are you doing? The guy who's winning,
Yeah.
the guy who's winning working class voters of color, I may not agree with him on 90% of the policies, but I agree with the math that's saying he's winning. And I'll tell you why
Exactly.
he's winning. The reason why he's winning is because he's actually talking to working class people in populist terms that they're responding to. You're not hearing that from Andrew Cuomo. You're not hearing that from the establishment Democratic Party. Like, and look, and I'm only criticizing the establishment Democrats for one reason, and the reason why is actually a virtue of theirs. They're trying to preserve and protect the institutions that have guided this country for
Right.
250 years. I get
Right.
that. But the political moment says if Mamdani is winning on the far left of your party, and Ruben Gallego in the center of your
Yeah.
party is winning on the right, they can be in the same party and both get
Yeah.
working class voters, because
Yeah.
they're doing what a healthy party does, which is debate over how they're going to help working class people. That's what they're both defined as. That's not a bad thing, guys. That's the best of all worlds. Like, that debate is healthy. That's what brings people into the party. It brings attention and focus to say, I like that Democrat because he's fighting for the working class. Like, when was the last time you heard that? You only
Yeah.
hear that about Mamdani and Gallegos
Right.
and people that
Right.
attack their own establishment because they're realizing something needs to be fixed. So I'm not anywhere near as worried as a lot of Democratic consultants and politicians are about this rise of the DSA. I may not agree with their policies at all,
Right.
but the politics are really good.
So I'm going to close, Madrid, and you can go back to your tequila in a minute, with two specific questions, then one final big one. You wrote two pieces recently that I loved. I'll go way back first. You wrote a really cool piece about the Ryder Cup
Yeah.
and what that displayed about America. Explain that.
Well, I mean, look, I'm not a big golfer. I love the game. I love the elegance of the game. I love the tradition of the game. I love the ritual of the game. I'm kind of like that in all aspects of my life. But the Ryder Cup was established as a competition between the United States of America and Britain at the time. It became the United States and Europe. It's a
Yeah,
gentleman's gathering. This is about, sport and competition, a healthy competition. It turned into a frat party on Long
yeah,
Island. I mean, like
yeah,
literally, it was, people were throwing beers at
yep,
the wives of players, and even the official organizers were chanting "F you" to, it was the ugly American at home, not just
boom.
abroad. And
Yeah,
it happened within days of Trump's really embarrassing, belligerent speech at the
yep,
UN. And the,
yep,
the, the comparison, I don't think, could be avoided. That's why I drew the connection. You have the president of the United States who has turned American belligerence into a virtue. The fact that
yes,
we are proud of our boorish ignorance. And we're America.
yeah,
So what are you gonna do about it? And you're seeing golf fans respond the same way. And a lot of people criticize the piece saying, well, you don't understand golf or the Ryder Cup. And it's like, I think you're missing the broader point. The broader point is
yeah,
we feel like when we don't win everything on our terms and our way on our country, we'll throw a beer at your wife. Like,
yes,
and laugh about it and act like that's okay. And what should we be surprised when that's essentially what the president of the United States is saying at the UN? Like,
yeah,
he is us.
yeah.
We're the
Thanks.
ugly American is us. That's who we are.
I love that. I love that piece. I love reading what you write. The other piece you wrote recently, you wrote about two Democrats, James Tallarico in Texas and Graham Plattner in Maine, who
Yeah.
you kind of talked about maybe reshaping the Democratic Party a little bit. Explain.
And again, I don't really know their politics, and I'm not or their policies, I
I
should say.
love
I'm
that.
not, and
I love
I
that.
really I don't know and I don't care. But what I will say about both of them is they are authentic voices, and they're not
Yes.
authentic voices in the Trump cussing under your breath or saying racist things. And I like that he speaks his mind. What they're bringing is a fresh approach where Tallarico is basically coming online and saying, I'm a follower of Christ as a philosophy because it's ultimately about doing good by our neighbors. We may
Yeah.
agree or disagree on our policies, but I don't doubt where he's coming from because that's been his life trajectory, and you can just tell that that's what he's doing. He's not a Christian like Donald Trump, who's of course not
Yeah.
Christian at all. And the other gentleman, Graham Plantner
Plattner. Yeah.
from
Maine.
Maine, the guy's an oyster farmer.
Yes.
This guy's not polished, and I know they're going to
Yeah.
be dropping Oppo on this guy and some stuff he
Yep.
said in the past. I mean, it doesn't surprise me either. Like he's a blue collar, working class oyster farmer. But what he does do, and I think these are the blue collar values we need to recapture as a country, is we care about our neighbors.
Yes.
Like, when did that become a vice? When did that
Yeah.
become a sign of weakness? Like, that's what blue collar American values are. The
Yeah.
old lady next door loses her husband and can't mow her lawn. Your teenage son mows the lawn and doesn't ask for
Hmm.
money. You do it because it's the right thing. She needs help moving her groceries up. You go help her with the groceries. You don't trip her and push her down and spit on her and call her a leech on society. Like, what are we doing? Like, how did
Amen.
we get there? And so both of these voices, to me anyway, again, I don't know their politics at all. I don't really care. I like the fact that their tone and their authenticity is bringing something new to the Democratic Party.
Well, and I love that. And that was my takeaway on your piece. Authenticity. The Democrats lack authentic voices, and that's what they need. Last question, Mike Madrid. You said about 30 minutes ago that we will emerge from this. You have no doubt we will emerge from this. Why? Why are you so convinced that we'll emerge from this?
I think that there is a sense amongst Americans who have well, let me back up a little bit.
Yeah.
Since the fall of the wall, since I was a high school senior in 1988, 89 when the wall came down, tells you how old I am. My entire adult life hasn't really been, we had 9/11, but we didn't really have a national struggle, a fight for the American idea, the American ideal. Virtually every other generation has had to sacrifice for America. And I say that because this moment feels overwhelming and unprecedented in American history. This isn't even a top 5 crisis, okay? But we are, and it's never been domestic in this way, with the exception of the Great Civil War. But it feels bigger than it is, and I don't think we are understanding Americans' ability to rise to the moment. And it's why when I see data of the unpopularity of this president, I realize that people aren't ready to be mobilized into action. They're getting more so. But once they are, we are awakening a great giant that is the American people, because our values will emerge from this. They're a little rusty because we've had 30 years of Pax Americana without a defining national struggle. But it will come. It will emerge. It always has, and there's no reason to think that it will not. And I also just believe that good people of goodwill that are Americans that believe in American values aren't going to be defeated by this guy and his band of merry idiots. I don't see it.
Perfect note to end on from my friend with Mike Madrid. He's the best. Please, everybody, subscribe to both Joe Walsh and Mike Madrid. You will be much smarter and more informed when you do. Michael, safe travels. Thanks, my friend, for taking some time.
Love you, brother. Thanks for having me. And I'm looking forward to some big adventures coming up. We'll talk soon. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Be brave, everybody. Be brave.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow The Social Contract with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been The Social Contract with Joe Walsh.